Okay, we're back in now, and I want to thank you for returning to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about theology, because I'm going to talk about every human being's type of thinking, not only the religious thinking, but whether they have any religion or they don't believe in a supreme being. I'm going to talk about all of them. It is about religion, and it's called Satan's Influence in the Church. But here I'm going to talk about theology, not only the religious thinking, but whether they have any religion or they don't believe in a supreme being. I'm going to talk about all of them. Now, the first thing we'll do is get started with the Christian beliefs that I am very aware with, opinions that we use, and this is what I'm going to be talking about, is each and every individual's opinion. The opinions that we have in Christianity, I'm going to talk about the other religions. I'm going to use them as a general category because I have not studied Buddhism, know necessarily what those people believe. But I do think the categories that I'm going to use in explaining how it works in our thinking will answer all of the questions for everyone by the time we're done. That is why I believe in God. I like to think for myself that we may not get even here, but if we do what's right here, spending eternity just getting a little better than we have here will more than compensate us for what we put in while we were here. That's why I say the existentialists really missed the boat, because when they started killing off the ones that didn't agree with them, I can almost guarantee Jesus Christ, Moses, and everyone that is religious, including every Muslim I heard, says they have adopted the belief of the Jewish people and the belief of Jesus Christ, but they think they've built on that. Now, I hate to be the informers of bad news to you, and that is, if you haven't made women equal, you haven't built on anything. Now, I don't know what each one of you believe, but I did hear a man say on TV that if my daughter does not do what I tell her to do, and she was an adult daughter, I have a right to kill her. Well, I don't care if you're Muslim or if you're God's son himself. You're wrong, because God told me, God told Jesus Christ, and God told Moses, thou shalt not kill. Now, it is true the horsepower engine, that is Moses, made up some exceptions. And clearly, Moses made up the exceptions because before he was given the rule, he had already killed someone. So he had already transgressed. That's why I said, if you don't continue to remind yourself, it's easy to fall back on what you had done before. But I will tell that Muslim right to your face, I doubt that you're going to heaven. And if you don't give up that attitude, you may not even get into heaven, because no human being has a right to kill another human being. No exceptions. Now, I say no exceptions. That's not true, because there's exceptions to everything. If someone has a knife and that knife is headed for your heart, and you know that it is coming with full force, and the only way you can avoid from being badly hurt or killed by that individual is to shoot him with the gun you have, I think you have a responsibility to shoot him in the stomach or shoot him in the shoulder or shooting someplace where you don't kill him. But if you accidentally kill him as a result of protecting yourself or others, then God will forgive you, in my opinion. Now, will you be forgiven? That's my opinion. I don't speak for God. I'm not a preacher or teacher. That's just my belief. Now, as far as the government, they don't have a right because a government is not an entity. Now, why do I know that? I am today a professional fiduciary, and I can't get a certain type of bank account because the banks hold that fiduciaries of a trust estate, the trust estate is not an entity because by definition, the trust estate, the trustee has died. So if it's an irrevocable trust who the testator has died, it cannot be an entity. Well, that is a rule, and I believe that is a true rule. I believe that is a rule. No government is an entity. A non-entity can't hire an employee. You're not an entity. So there's no entity to talk to. All you can talk to are the representatives. The representatives are supposed to be our servants. Now, you can just ask Thomas Jefferson. Why do I state Thomas Jefferson? Because everyone is aware that at the time Thomas Jefferson lived, the United States of America had made a law. No Western European can marry or have sexual relationships with an African American. So therefore, when Thomas Jefferson was sent to France, and he took two his slaves with him, a brother and a sister, and he served his term in France, he had an issue he had to deal with, and that was in France they did not allow slavery. So he had to allow the slave brother and sister that he took with him to Europe to be free. Now, the woman loved Thomas Jefferson. I told you, women are love engines. Thomas Jefferson was evidently a man that she revered, respected, and loved. Thomas Jefferson lived as her being his paid servant while he was in Europe. When they came back to America, the brother decided not to come. He was free. He liked the idea of freedom. I don't blame him. I never wanted to be a slave myself. He chose freedom and he stayed in Paris. The woman chose to come back with Thomas Jefferson. When she came back to America, she again was his slave. It was the law of the country, and there was nothing Thomas could do about it. Now, in secret, he did have sexual relations with her, and the reason we know that is because she had several children. One of the agreements she made with him probably at the time before she agreed to have sex, even though women are love engines, they're not stupid. And so she had an agreement with Thomas Jefferson probably before he ever got to have sex with her, that when he died, he would free not only his children, but all of his slaves. So if she outlived her boyfriend that she's going to have sexual relations with, that she would be a free woman. Now, do I condemn Thomas Jefferson or her? I told you, that kind of discrimination is above my pay grade. Have I engaged in extramarital sex? As far as I know, I have no children outside of my marriage, anyplace. So if I did, I tried to do what is necessary to make sure that never created another human being. Now, my thinking at that time was, if you have sex with a woman and you don't go off in her, you really haven't had sex. Now, do I condemn Bill Clinton? He says it depends on what your definition of sex is. Well, Bill, I'm a brother of yours. I'm a Republican, you're a Democrat, but we have a similar attitude about sex and laws in America. The laws in America are laws that don't belong there. They don't exist. They're about the way people think. The government needs to take their nose out of religion. They have nothing to say about religion. So end every law that is the rule of religion to make a determination about. Human beings are human beings. If they don't violate the laws that belong to the way one human being treats another human being. Now, we need to get rid of those, and then we can get rid of the laws that have nothing to do with religion. Religion has a right to make laws that are true for the religious people and their parishioners that they're ruling. That's up to them to make rules and regulations about. Now, does a religion have a right to burn you at the stake? Of course not. That's the government's job. If the government has a right to kill you, only that your government does. And I say the government doesn't. But the government doesn't unless you have religious people running the government. If the government is a government of religious people, that government will not kill anyone for any reason. Will they put him in prison without the possibility of ever getting out? Of course. If you've acted in a way that you deserve that kind of treatment, you're nothing but an animal. You deserve to be caged. But I have enough background in this one to tell the people I don't think like every other Christian. So don't look at me and say, he's a Christian, he believes X, Y, Z. Don't know if I believe X, Y, and Z until you ask me. If you don't, and I have to say this to my Christian brothers and sisters, don't ask if you don't want to know. Because the Bible says very clearly, I don't have to tell you unless I'm asked. If you go out of your way of asking me, and now I have a responsibility to tell you why I believe what I believe. And let me guarantee, before I tell you, I will make this a sworn statement to you. And if you need it on the Bible, my hand would be on the Bible swearing it to you. I will not tell you anything that's not in the Bible. So don't ask me if you don't know that I believe something that you don't believe, and I got my answer from the Bible. So don't think that you know everything in the Bible and ask me something else, because believe me, I will tell you that I know and I believe what I'm saying is what is written in the Bible. So if you don't want to know, live in your land. It's not a fantasy land. I am not perfect. Part of my life is still fantasy as well. And my life will be fantasy the day I drop dead. I will not know everything. I'm not a person to know everything. Now, in the book Carolyn, I did tell the Jewish people, I think this is a way that you can not have any more fighting with Arab people. And in my book, I say, we build them another nation. Now, we build a nation in where there's desert. And you say, no one wants to live in a desert. I live in Los Angeles. It was a desert. A lot of people want to live here. There's millions of people that live in the Southern California area. So don't tell me people don't want to live here. If you want to know a bigger desert than ours, go to Las Vegas. People pay billions of dollars for buildings there. Now, it is true, go 50 miles outside of Las Vegas, and if you pay $1 million for the land, you've been taken. So, yes, it's important where you build because it has to be something. But when we're going to give them the desert, it's the desert they claim they wandered in for 40 years. And we're going to be buying that desert from Egypt. Egypt is going to sell the desert for a pretty penny, more than it's worth, but not much more, because Israel doesn't want to be taken advantage of either. So they're going to buy land necessary until they have enough land, and then they're going to build a nation that gives the Arabs twice the land they have in the West Bank. Now, it is true when they sell the land in the West Bank, it will all belong to Israel. Israel now will have 100% of the land that belongs to the nation of Israel. Now, will that solve all the problems? Well, not if you think you're going to beat them off the face of the earth, because Israel believes in God. God is going to support his people. Now, did 9 million of them have to die at the hands of Hitler? Yes, they did. Is that a travesty? Yes, it is a travesty. No one should be allowed to do that. But let's keep in mind, that's only a tenth of what happened to Russia. And those were done by Russians. So it's not who does it to you. Remember, it was the slaves that were killing off and selling the black African Americans into slavery. Now, us Western Europeans get blamed all for it. Let's wake up, African Americans. You did it to each other. Clean up your own act. Stop having a slave mentality, and see that your women are equal, and your women will guarantee that you live in a free society. You don't need Western Europeans to give it to you. I will make the guess, and it's not, I don't give any, but I am making a prophecy that if you take any nation in Africa and you make the women absolutely free, and you make it a religious nation, I don't care if you call it Muslim or what, but a religious nation where the women and every other human being are absolutely equal. That means you can't kill anyone that doesn't agree with you. So if Christians are living in your nation, they have the same equality you do. You have more equality when you go to church. They go to the Christian church. But in your country, as far as the government's concerned, they're just as equal as you are in the government. So you don't have any other advantages over these Christians in the government. So if you say Muhammad says they have to convert or become dead, you're not hearing what Muhammad really said. Someone else has changed the text along the way to say Muhammad said it, to believe it. Now, people have said, God said the whole Old Testament. So you have to watch what the Old Testament tells you as well, because I'm telling you, none of those people that wrote it were perfect. And I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings. Muhammad wasn't perfect either, and neither are you. So if you don't live like you have something to learn while you're here on earth, you're not going to get closer to God. Because the closer to God you get, it has to be closer to the truth. And the truth is, one human being is not allowed to kill another human being. God said so from everyone I know, and if I read the Quran, it probably says that in there too. It just probably puts a caveat saying, if they're Muslim, you can't kill them. Well, that just shows Muhammad wasn't perfect. So I have to say to all of you people, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me. When I come back with Theology 3, now I'm calling it Theology, because I'm not making any representation that Christianity or any other religion believes what I believe. I'm saying I know I believe it. I'm saying I know that I'm a Christian. I'm not saying you have to accept that. I'm saying you can believe any theology you want to believe. Thank you. And if you appreciate what I'm sharing with you, I would appreciate if you'd click the subscribe button, because that will help me to be able to continue doing what I'm doing. Thanks for coming. Thanks for supporting me. And I look forward to seeing you with my next video. And goodbye for now.